In the summer of 2010, the most secure intelligence agencies in the world discovered that their greatest threats might not come from foreign enemies, but from the mysteries that lurk within their own classified walls. Before we begin our investigation, subscribe for more unsolved cases. It was August 23, 2010, in the fashionable district of Pimlico, London, where Georgian terraces cast long shadows over quiet residential streets. The area housed diplomats, civil servants, and others whose work required discretion. Among them lived Gareth Williams, a 31-year-old Welsh mathematician whose brilliance had earned him a place within the most classified corridors of British intelligence. Williams worked for GCHQ, the Government Communications Headquarters, Britain's signals intelligence agency. His colleagues knew him as a private man who solved complex cryptographic puzzles with an almost supernatural intuition. He had been temporarily assigned to the Secret Intelligence Service, working on projects so sensitive that even his closest associates remained unaware of their true nature. The mathematician lived alone in a modest flat on Alderney Street, maintaining the unremarkable facade required of those who moved through the shadows of national security. His neighbors rarely saw him, and when they did, he appeared as nothing more than a quiet professional who kept to himself. On the morning of August 23rd, Williams failed to attend a scheduled meeting at MI6 headquarters. This absence immediately triggered concern among his supervisors, as punctuality and reliability were fundamental requirements in his line of work. The missed appointment represented the first crack in what would become an increasingly disturbing pattern. His colleagues at the intelligence service attempted to contact him through various secure channels, but received no response. Phone calls went unanswered, and encrypted messages remained unread. For someone whose entire professional existence revolved around communication and surveillance, this silence carried ominous implications. 7 days passed without any word from the mathematician. The extended absence violated every protocol governing personnel in sensitive positions. Intelligence agencies maintain strict accountability measures for individuals with access to classified information, and Williams possessed knowledge that could compromise ongoing operations across multiple continents. On August 30th, MI6 officials decided to conduct a welfare check at his residence. They contacted the building's landlord and arranged for entry into the flat. What they discovered would challenge every assumption about the case and introduce elements that defied conventional explanation. The front door showed no signs of forced entry, and the security system remained on. Inside, the flat appeared undisturbed, with no indication of struggle or hasty departure. Williams' personal belongings remained in their usual places, and nothing appeared to have been stolen or searched. The discovery came in the bathroom, where investigators found a large red North Face sports bag positioned in the bathtub. The bag's zipper was closed and secured with a padlock from the outside. Inside, they found the body of Gareth Williams, naked and curled in a fetal position. The scene presented immediate contradictions that would perplex investigators for years. The mathematician's body showed no obvious signs of violence or trauma, yet his position within the locked bag suggested circumstances that seemed impossible to achieve alone. The bag measured approximately 32 inches by 19 inches, barely large enough to contain an adult male of Williams' build. Forensic examination revealed that the padlock securing the bag could only be fastened from the outside, creating a fundamental impossibility if Williams had placed himself inside. The lock mechanism required manual manipulation that would have been physically impossible for someone already enclosed within the bag. The bathroom itself contained additional puzzling elements. The heating had been turned to its maximum setting, and the windows remained closed, creating an environment that accelerated decomposition. This detail suggested either careful planning or knowledge of forensic science that seemed inconsistent with suicide. Investigators found no fingerprints on the bag or the surrounding bathtub area except for those belonging to Williams himself. The absence of other prints suggested either the use of gloves or a level of cleanup that indicated professional knowledge of evidence removal techniques. The mathematician's mobile phones, both personal and work-issued, were discovered inside the bag with his body. This placement seemed particularly significant, as it prevented any possibility of calling for help and suggested premeditation that contradicted the suicide theory. Examination of Williams' computer revealed internet searches related to claustrophobia and self-bondage techniques. However, investigators found no evidence of previous experimentation with such practices, and colleagues described him as having no known interest in extreme physical experiences. The toxicology report detected no drugs, alcohol, or poisons in Williams' system. His blood chemistry showed no signs of struggle or stress responses that would typically accompany a violent death. The absence of chemical evidence eliminated several explanations for his condition. Security camera footage from the building's entrance showed Williams returning to his flat on August 15th, 8 days before his body was discovered. The cameras recorded no subsequent departures, suggesting he had remained inside the building until his death. However, the footage also showed no visitors or unusual activity during this period. The investigation revealed that Williams had been working on highly classified projects involving Russian intelligence operations. His mathematical expertise had been applied to breaking encrypted communications that could expose networks of foreign agents operating within Western countries. This work placed him at the center of international espionage activities that carried inherent risks. Colleagues reported that Williams had seemed increasingly concerned about his personal security in the weeks before his death. He had mentioned feeling watched and had altered his usual routines without explanation. These behavioral changes suggested awareness of potential threats that remained unidentified. The post-mortem examination failed to establish a definitive cause of death. The pathologist found no injuries, disease, or chemical factors that could explain Williams' demise. The official conclusion stated that he had likely died from hypothermia and lack of oxygen while confined in the bag, but could not determine how he had arrived in that position. The coroner's inquest initially recorded an open verdict, acknowledging that the circumstances contained too many unexplained elements to support any single theory. This decision reflected the fundamental impossibility of reconciling the physical evidence with conventional explanations. MI6 conducted its own internal investigation, examining Williams' work assignments and potential security breaches. The agency's findings remained classified, but officials stated that no evidence suggested foreign involvement or compromise of sensitive operations. This conclusion seemed to contradict the obvious implications of the case. The mathematician's personal effects revealed additional mysteries. His wardrobe contained several expensive women's clothing items in his size, including designer dresses and shoes that had never been worn. These purchases appeared to represent a private aspect of his life that remained completely unknown to colleagues and family members. Financial records showed that Williams had withdrawn substantial amounts of cash in the weeks before his death, but investigators could not determine how this money had been spent. The missing funds suggested activities or purchases that left no traceable evidence. The heating system in Williams' flat had been modified in a way that allowed it to operate at higher temperatures than normal. This alteration required technical knowledge and seemed to serve no practical purpose other than creating the conditions found at the death scene. 3 years after the initial inquest, a second coroner's court reviewed the case with access to additional evidence. This review reached the conclusion that Williams had probably been killed unlawfully, though it could not identify the perpetrator or method. The revised verdict acknowledged that the circumstances were inconsistent with suicide or accidental death. The mathematician's family maintained that he could not have placed himself in the bag and demanded further investigation into potential murder scenarios. They pointed to his athletic build and practical intelligence as evidence that he would not have engaged in activities that posed such obvious risk. Intelligence sources suggested that Williams' death had disrupted several ongoing operations and forced the reassignment of personnel working on related projects. The timing of his death coincided with critical phases of investigations that subsequently encountered unexpected complications. The case files contain references to evidence that remains classified under national security provisions. These sealed documents allegedly contain information about Williams' final assignments and the specific nature of his work during the weeks before his death. The continued classification suggests ongoing sensitivity surrounding the case. What do you think really happened to Gareth Williams in that locked bathroom in Pimlico? Share your thoughts about this impossible death that continues to baffle investigators more than a decade later.